You mentioned during the podcast API security and how you had a client had a subset of their data go offshore to somewhere dark and scary, and they didn't even realize it. I think most of us in the cyberspace realize that within the last 5, 7, 8 years, we've seen a tremendous growth in API security specifically. And I wanted to talk about that because it is definitely a substantial portion of the software supply chain. Yet sometimes it can be buried a little bit. It's not top of mind, um, but it is definitely a breach point. Um, so, can we talk about some of the hidden dangers around API security or lack thereof?
Absolutely. And this is a very timely topic. Um, in 2019 to 2020, in 1 year, there were 2.21 trillion API calls in the enterprise space. The amount of data that's transferred through APIs is mind boggling. APIs are used for everything, transferring financial, PHI information, PII information, healthcare, every single thing. Good news is there are certain standards, like in the healthcare industry, there are HL7 standards for, hey, you can't just talk to me depending on whatever you feel like. There has to be some minimum standardizations. The problem is actually not API security. The problem is API governance. Why? Because 99% of enterprises today don't know, what do I have? Why don't they know? What do I have? Because the people who are writing all these APIs to transfer data from point A to point B, they are not in tight sync with security or compliance or legal. They're doing their job based on the product specifications that have been written by a completely different organization, product managers. Nothing to do with security, nothing to do with compliance, anything. They talk, but there's no tight sync over there. So there's always this catch up going on, hey, who are we talking to? Who are we talking to? Who are we exchanging data with? Do we know these things? And unfortunately, over the last 10 years, we've been playing catch up in terms of cyber tools like OneTrust, CyberGRC, any one of these that are there, which are just static stores of information saying, when we talk to a vendor, is the vendor compliant with rule X or not? SOC 2, PCI, put the PDF in here. These are all static documents. None of this actually talks about what are we exchanging with the vendor. When did we exchange it? How did we exchange it? What's actually going on? There's no real time mechanism to understand. So that's why my perspective is slightly different. API security is important. Most products in the security market today, when you talk about API security, they are actually doing pen testing on the APIs. Let me look at your API. Let me change the parameters, massage them a little bit, and say, something happened, something broke over here, so you must not have written the code the right way. That I understand. It's an important thing, but look at it this way, from the company corporate risk perspective, where do you really care? You care when you are going to get a fine worth billions of dollars.
Yeah.
Google cares in EU because they get a fine for billions of euros. Why do they get the fine? Because of data, not vulnerability at the API level. So it is a data governance, data tracking problem. API governance encompasses that, not just penetration testing on the API itself. That's essentially where I see the world heading towards.
Fascinating. Fascinating. That is a whole other episode. Thank you very much, Anirban. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.